Hey, welcome back to another episode of Point Black. Hey, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we still on air. Can you believe that? It in December, I think it's 2 years, and we still on air. And so today I'm gonna work hard and make sure that we get out there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adolphus Pruitt. My co-host, Daryl Gray, is still out on assignment. I expect to see him next week. Thank God. Looking forward to him. Let me tell you something. Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, I'm going to be talking to BJ, but I'm talking to y'all too. Mr. BJ the DJ. I am so...
Excuse me, sir. That is Dr.
I'm sorry, Dr. BJ the DJ. I am so tired and frustrated when I see young, and you know, BJ, on the internet, they call them YNs. And I feel saying, what's YNs? And for ladies and gentlemen, YNs, I'm saying young Negroes, but that ain't what they put the I in. I just put an A in. But you know, it's a little frustrating when I see them talking about what's going on with the Trump administration, all the moves and stuff like that, BJ. And the issue came up about, and they last was talking about DEI. And they started talking about, Courtney, can you believe they started talking about DEI, the only people it benefited was white women and Asians and people from India. And I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's the only people benefit. And it's like if we're going to talk about the impacts that the things, the movement that the Trump administration has on black folks, let's be a little bit more in-depth and factual, especially when we talk about DEI too, especially because I think, BJ, the best way I can put it was like this. Back in the 50s and the 60s, we were black. No, let me go. Back in the 30s and 40s, we were Negroes. That was black people. Then by the 60s, with the empowerment, we were black.
Well, there was a period we were colored.
Yeah, okay, that's right, colored.
Mm-hmm. We were colored.
Colored.
Mm-hmm.
Then black.
Mm-hmm.
Then African American, which is what we use now. And ladies and gentlemen, the point I'm trying to make is whether you use black to colored to African American, it's all means the same. Because the name change or the connotation change, we're still talking about people of African descent who are considered black and ancestors. The ancestors were slaves who came here from Africa on the boat. Now that's what we, or the Caribbean, or either way they got here. But that's so the word DEI is just a new way of saying. Now some people say it's a new way of saying affirmative action. They would say DEI means something different from affirmative action. I'm like, I think they both try to accomplish the same thing. It is nothing new. It is just a new connotation of the words that they utilize to describe activities that one undertakes and should undertake to make sure that their hiring practice, their lending practice, their medical practice, when you buy a house, to make sure that all these things are fair and equitable regardless of what race you are. That's all it is about. And to say that say that we don't need DEI because all it did was help white women, Asians, and other folks, it's like you missing the boat. You missing the boat. And if we're going to talk about the impact, because BJ, what they were basically saying is that, oh, they can get away with the DEI. There's nothing wrong with Trump getting rid of DEI because it wasn't helping black folks anyway. And I'm like, whoa, you don't get it. What is the, I need to ask them was this, what is the replacement for what DEI you said didn't accomplish? Well, what's in place that is there to accomplish? Well, and I would tell them that the Civil Rights Act of 65, I would tell them that the Voting Rights Act, I would tell them that any number of things. And BJ, here's a good example, because we're going to talk about impacts. Now, folks, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, is something that the Trump administration is shutting down. And you may say, what Consumer Financial Protection? What is that? And why should we worry, and how does it impact black folks? Here's one example I give you. Redlining. In the 30s, and some people tell you even up today, you could find maps that covered over 250 cities that basically had red line. They were shaded and say, to make a loan in these neighborhoods is hazardous. Don't give nobody a mortgage on the block and in the neighborhood BJ lives in, because BJ is a black guy and the other folks are black in there. That's redlining. Do not provide mortgages, and if you do, require a larger down payment and charge them a higher interest rate. And you do all of that to discourage them from coming and borrowing and asking for a mortgage from your bank. And let's get the appraisals to work with them. Mr. Appraiser, when you go over there, because we redlined it and we consider it a hazardous for our health to lend money over there, instead of you appraising that house out at $100,000, appraise it out at $25,000, because that's all it's worth, because it's black folks. Now, when the white person lived there, it was worth $100,000. Then when the black person moved next door to them, now folks, listen to me, that neighborhood wasn't redlined when it was a white neighborhood. Y'all got to understand, we in St. Louis. If you go to parts of North St. Louis where it was the German immigrants or the Irish immigrants, those part of the neighborhood, it was not redlined at that point in time. Then black folks began to move into them. The lawsuit that got rid of restricted covenants, because folks, let's not forget that it was legal for white property owners to write into the deed that says nobody black can buy this house and live in this neighborhood. And the lawsuit to get rid of that, it happened out of St. Louis. It happened in North St. Louis. That house is in North St. Louis because a black man moved his family up in there, and it wound up suing and winning and went to the Supreme Court, and the court got rid of restricted covenants. Well, now black folks move in the neighborhood. It ain't redlined. Now all of a sudden, white flight. White people start leaving that neighborhood and becomes more black. And the blacker it becomes, the redder the line gets. And so it's redlined. Well, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, one of their biggest things is to go after insurance companies, mortgage companies, and lenders who will say that this neighborhood is not safe to lend money to, or we're going to charge a higher interest rate, or we're going to do more to prevent us from having to put money in that neighborhood because it's black. So when you start talking about, and I would think that the activities of the Consumer Financial Protection Board to stop redlining, to stop the insurance companies from saying we won't insure a house in that neighborhood because it's a black neighborhood, or we're gonna underinsure it. That was the efforts for them to stop that. Wouldn't you, BJ? Wouldn't that be DEI? Hold on, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back with more on Point Black. And we're back. Yeah, we're talking about impacts to black folks and trying to help folks understand DEI just for a little bit. We were talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Board, which Trump got rid of. And I'm telling you, because predatory lending. In the lead up to the 2008 financial crisis, predatory lending practices targeted black communities. They gave subprime lenders aggressively marketed high-cost, high-risk loans to black borrowers, even when they qualify for a traditional mortgage. That means, ladies and gentlemen, black, you live in certain neighborhoods or just being black, period, and the interest rates for everybody else for a 30-year mortgage was 3%, they would say, "Oh no, we're gonna give you a loan, but yours gonna be 12." Lenders exploited the lack of mainstream financial institutions in minority neighborhoods, and they pushed predatory products. And some lenders even recruited African Americans to promote these loans within their communities. Well, Consumer Financial Protection Board, one of their jobs is to go after those lenders, to make sure those lenders don't do that. BJ, I would think that's DEI. I would consider that to be DEI. What I'm trying to say is I just don't get it where we sit up and talk about things and support the efforts of the president in regard to some of these matters, when in the end, you're not looking at them deep enough to make a determination of who is really being impacted and to what degree. Now, if you want to say, I looked at it, I understand that, yeah, that board would prevent people from loans, would make banks give lending the same sort of loan product, offer the same sort of loan product to somebody black that they would to somebody white. If you want to say, yeah, I looked at all of that and I'm fine with them doing that, so get rid of DEI because that's some DEI stuff. If you want to do that, that's fine. I just want to make sure you basing it in fact, that you know what the hell you're talking about before you sit up and say that, well, DEI only help white folks, white women, and Asians. I say, and then, BJ, and then they have the nerve to say, well, you know, we got too many people in the government making money, too many employees. We need to cut down on some of these employees that work for the federal government. These folks who got kids, got a house, got mortgages, car notes. They just trying, they're doing their job, just trying to make a living like everybody else. Trying to turn a dime into 50 cents. That's it. And folk, when you say that, hey, get rid of them, cut them out, you know, I think most people think that they talking about getting rid of a bunch of white folks, BJ. I think that folks forget that historically, the federal government, such as the post office, the VA, I can go down the list. HUD, those agencies from back during the 60s going forward were some of the only jobs, good paying jobs with benefits and retirement that black folks can get. They wasn't, St. Louis, we had the Jefferson Bank boycott in the 60s because the banks were not hiring blacks to be tellers and stuff. In other companies, if you go back and look at what happened in St. Louis with Core and the NACP and everybody else, it was because Wonder Bread Company, these companies were not hiring black people. But back then, you know who was? The post office. The VA. HUD, the federal government. Matter of fact, if you look at it, within federal government, over 19%, BJ, of the employees in federal government today are black. Over 19%. We are not 19% of the population in the U.S. We're less than that. We're about, I think, 11%. The federal government and those jobs has had a greater open door for black folks and provide them a fair wage, provide them health care for them and their families, provide them money to buy a house, buy a car, provide them the ability to retire. It was the federal government. So when you hear them talking about, listen, we want to wipe this thing out. We want to get rid of all these employees. If you want it because of DEI, or whatever you want to call it, if you want to support that, that's fine. And listen, we're going to be on different sides of the fence. All I'm saying is, before you sit your butt up there and open your mouth and talk all that bull crap in support of something, get your facts together. I want you to make sure that you know who is being impacted and how. And then if you don't mind that 19% of the employees in the federal government are African Americans, and when they reduce that number down and knock them out, we probably gonna go from 19 to 5 or whatever, but we putting black folks out of jobs, and we taking money off their tables, and we taking food from their kids and clothes, and we do all this other stuff. If you don't mind that happening to black folks, I don't want it to happen to anybody, but if you don't mind it happening to black folks, and you want to say that that's good because we need to get rid of DEI because the only way they got there, and let's be clear, don't make the argument and say that the only way they got there is DEI because you just said DEI only worked to help white women or Chinese, Asians, Indians. You just said that's who it helps. So that means that 19% of the folks, black folks in federal government, they didn't get there to do DEI. Let's be clear, which means that why are they being forced out of their jobs? Why are they being forced out? If they didn't get there to do DEI, why are you effing with them? So I just want folks to understand, do your homework, because I'm going to do mine. The one thing you don't have to worry about is if I open my mouth and say something, I'm saying it based on some research and what I believe to be fact. What I believe to be fact. And I'm going to pull up some stuff to support it. And then, man, no, let's not talk about HUD. No, hold on. I got one. DEI. Now, folks who say they want to get rid of DEI, that's fine. But I would love to know what you feel about what Trump wants to do as relates to the criminal justice system. Now, I know you know that, hey, you know what? BJ just dawned upon me. The prisons are full of black folks. The jails are full of black folks. Then maybe they got that through DEI. Now that's a DEI we need to get rid of. I got it. That's the matter of fact, I'm gonna write the president. Trump, you know what? Get rid of DEI and get rid of it in the prisons. And definitely get rid of it as relates to the death penalty. Because your president, our president, is saying that he wants to not only make sure that the death penalty stands in federal prisons, but they get off their butt and start killing them like it's free. And I don't know where you've been, but just in the state of Missouri alone, just recently, you know, there's been a few brothers and the sisters who recently was found that their convictions were fraudulent, flawed, whatever, but it was determined by a court that they should be overturned and they should be released, and they were on death row. I think if you look across the country, you'll find that now whatever number you want to use, I'm saying 25% or more on average are being found to be not guilty, and they're on death row. Their death sentences are being overturned. You know, I'm saying whatever number you want it to be. If you want to say it's 5%, 10%, whatever number you want to be. What I'm saying is, if it's one individual, it's too many. Now, you can use whatever number you want. I'm saying if it's one, and especially when a great significant proportion of them are African American and was convicted by all-white jury. Let's get rid, maybe, was that DEI? Maybe that, if that's DEI, we need to get rid of it. You know, I don't understand why. Well, let me put it this way. The Trump administration that says they want to target the expansion of capital crimes specifically to pursue the death penalty in cases involving murder of law enforcement officials and capital offenses committed by undocumented immigrants. Now, boy, that's interesting. So, if the police unlawfully kill me, that should not be expanded, and it should not pursue the death penalty in that case. But if I kill the police, you want them to escalate and viciously pursue the death penalty because it was a law enforcement officer. Which is a little strange to me, BJ, since didn't the law enforcement officer die during the January 6th? I'm almost sure that a law enforcement officer died as a result of January the 6th. And everybody in January 6th got pardoned. So I guess, you know what? I'm going to call that law enforcement DEI. January 6th, that's DEI. Because everybody else, yeah. But I want you to think about it. And if it's undocumented illegal immigrant. Well, BJ, I'm going to sound prejudicial, so excuse me. Last I checked, the illegal immigrants that the administration is targeting and saying they want to send back are people of color. They from Venezuela, Mexico, Dominican, and don't let them be from Haiti. Haitians, boy, don't let them be Haitians. They don't play that now. I mean, we built a wall in Mexico, but when it came to the Haitians, we sent the Coast Guard down into the coast of Florida and said, turn those boats back around. We didn't build no wall on that beach. We didn't build no, bitch, I just thought that. We didn't build no wall on that beachfront property to keep the Haitians out. But the Rio Grande River, we did, but not, folks, when you talk about illegal immigrants, and you see the pictures of who they talk, so if an illegal immigrant, simply because they are an immigrant, do something that results in the loss of life, you want to escalate and push and make it almost automatic that they get the death penalty when found guilty. That simply because, now folks, simply because of their status. So, BJ, I'm walking down the street, illegal immigrant robs me, I have a heart attack in the middle of it, I die, he gets a death penalty. Right? He gets a death penalty. I'm walking down the street, a Klansman come up to me, say I hate Negroes, and kills me. He gonna get charged with murder, manslaughter. But he shouldn't get the death penalty because he wasn't an illegal immigrant. So there are some murders that we're saying deserve a higher priority and a greater punishment based on the status of who you are, not based on the victim or their family or the harm that was brought upon you. Think about it, folks. And you can't make this up. Folks, all I'm asking you to do is think about it. Think about when somebody says that I want to do this. I want to, if an illegal immigrant kills somebody, I want them to get the death penalty. I want to do it right away. I want to rush and get it done. And you're doing it simply because it gets escalated. Not because of who they did it to. Not because how vicious the crime was. It's simply because of their status. It's simply because of their status. Is that not what, if that's not what we consider prejudicial? I mean, and don't let it be, like I said, a policeman can kill us, no issue. But boy, don't kill a policeman. He says he wants those cases to be targeted and expanded for capital crimes, for capital punishment. That's what he's saying. He wants it done that way. And nothing to deal with the systematic issues of why our prisons are full of black people today. And even worse, folks, and I'm talking, I call this DEI too, BJ. This is a DEI he's not getting rid of. He's eliminating any executive order on policing that banned chokeholds and no-knock warrants. Now, again, my folks who says, well, I'm for the administration, this and that, I want you to help me understand. I want you to go back and do your homework. I want you to tell me what class or color of people have been impacted the most and the most egregiously treated from chokeholds and no-knock warrants. If I'm not mistaken, it was the chokehold is why we lost George Floyd, and we lost Breonna because of the no-knock warrants. And all across the country, legislatures and cities, even Missouri passed a state statute to eliminate the no-knock warrants and the chokeholds because of the impact they were having on policing on people of color. It was being overly used on people of color. And hear me right, folks. If the Missouri legislature, and Missouri's a red state, as a matter of fact, Missouri is so red that if you wanted to create a new color red, you just base it on the Missouri legislature. It is red as the Missouri legislature is red. Missouri is red. It voted for Trump overwhelmingly. So if the Missouri legislature can find it in their hearts and minds to determine that no-knock warrants and chokeholds was something that really needed to be banned and heavily regulated in the state of Missouri because of the differential impact it has on people, especially people of color. Now, they made everybody, but, I'm saying that I can assure you the issues that was brought forth during the debate when that legislation was not only offered, when it was discussed in committee and passed out of committee, and when it went to the full legislature, both in the House and the Senate, and passed, and when it went to the governor's desk and he signed it, I can assure you that the examples they use as to why we need to get rid of and ban chokeholds and no-knock warrants was the issues of it's being used on black people. I can assure you that. And so if Missouri and other places can do it, and now the president is saying, hey, no. We need no-knock warrants. We need chokeholds. No. I ain't going to do executive order. I'm against it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more on Point Black. And watch out now. Watch out. I know, don't get caught in the chokehold out here. Don't get caught in the chokehold. Yeah, and I'm on my soapbox. Because I told you, I started off by saying I'm kind of pissed. Because I don't like seeing black folk publicly out here making statements saying that, some of the stuff the president is doing is good. They like it. And I don't think they have any idea or have done the research. And now I'm speculating that they've done the research and looked at who is it impacting. And if you've done that and you know who's impacting the most and you're okay with it, I'm fine. I disagree with you, but I'm fine because at least you're speaking from a position of knowledge, of fact. But if you haven't done that, well, and BJ, did you know that Trump has a platinum plan to help black folk? I didn't know that. I don't know how I missed that. A platinum plan. And this plan says that from an economic focus that he promises $500 billion in capital for black communities, creating 3 million new jobs, and increasing access to capital for black-owned businesses. Now, $500 billion in capital to black communities, creating 3 million new jobs, and increasing access to capital for black-owned businesses. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that executive order. Where is that executive order? Matter of fact, I dare them to write an executive order and tell these folks, listen, hey, here's my executive order. All this money that we can really cut out waste and fraud and all this other stuff we're going to save from all this stuff, take $500 billion, $500 billion of that, and we need to target it towards Harlem, North St. Louis, Tulsa, the black part of Tulsa. We know Watts, Inglewood, Compton. we need it. And by the way, right, we're gonna create 3 million new jobs. So now, BJ, if you're saying you're gonna target $500 billion toward the black community, you're gonna create 3 million new black jobs, and you're gonna increase access to capital for black-owned businesses. Isn't that DEI? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm laughing, but I'm serious.
Okay, so I got a question.
Isn't that DEI?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So you know how we went from Negroes, to colored,
yes,
to black, and then they called it affirmative action to DEI. So is this a way to create something new and call it something else?
I don't know. I know this. I haven't heard any discussion about the implementation of a platinum plan that professes to put $500 billion in black neighborhoods, create 3 million new black jobs, and increase access to capital for black-owned businesses. Especially when the executive order eliminated the executive order 11246. And executive order 11246 was the executive order that required that African Americans had not only access to jobs, but say, for instance, BJ, if it was a construction project, Executive Order 11246 required contractors, and they set numbers, goals, to have so many black employed construction workers on the job. It required, say, for instance, your Department of Transportation at your state level and other federal government contracts to ensure a certain percentage of those contracts went to minority businesses. It required It required certain educational training. 11246 was the executive order that came out the 60s that basically required minority participation in government contracting and government hiring. And folks, let me tell you something. I would ask you one question for folks who say that's DEI and that need to go and this and that. I tell you this. Why is it wrong for the government to purposefully ensure that blacks' tax-paying dollars that went into the government coffers, that black businesses and black workers got a fair share of it? Let's be clear. You pay taxes. Those taxes go into the coffers for government contracting and government hiring. And so if the government spends, say on your highways on an annual basis, $100 million, $300 million, $500 million in contracting, and you look out there and the only construction workers you see are white, and the contractors who get in the contracts are white, Do you honestly believe that is happening because there are no black workers or who have the skill set to do that work, and there's no black contractors who have the ability to perform? Do you honestly believe that is the case? If you honestly believe in that the case, you shouldn't have a problem. You're right. Eliminate 11-246. But if you don't believe that, then that's the problem. That is the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Who is being impacted? When they eliminate that, that means that contracts are going out from the federal government in your state and your city. Because here's an example. Before that was eliminated, if you use $1, say your city or your state is going to do a bridge, build a bridge, and that bridge is going to cost $700 million. And your state or your city says, we got $699.9 million. We are $1 short. And the federal government gave them that dollar, then it would have said that you now, because you have one federal dollar or more, you have to adhere to Executive Order 11-246, which means you have to have goals to ensure that minorities and women have opportunities to make money working on that project or building that bridge. One federal dollar or more require that. Now, let's be clear, folks. Cities, your communities, and your state go after matching federal dollars to do all of that. And it's more than $1. So now, what happened when that executive order went out, you won't see nobody, you won't see anybody, any contracts that have been bidded out. You won't see anybody bidded out that has no goals. It have no goals. And what you're going to see is the minority contractors are not going to get these jobs. You're going to be driving up and down the highways, in the streets, and where they're building these bridges, you're not going to see minority workers out there. And all of a sudden, by eliminating that, it went from seeing some to not seeing some. So 11-246 was DEI. I want to call it DEI. And so when you say that the only people benefiting for women and Asians and these other folks, well, I want to tell you, you go to your state Department of Transportation and go look at their annual report and go to other government agencies and look at their reports, and they would tell you how much percentage of minority contractors and stuff were making money doing this work. And a year from now, go back and look and you see them gone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here. And by the way, BJ, I guess because I'm here on iHeart and my DEI, this might be a DEI show. I'm so glad the president executive order had nothing to do with iHeart. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have today. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll have more for you next week on Point Black.